確かに一見バラ。しかしよく見れば
花一輪一輪がタルト生地に乗せられている。
このバラこそがリンゴで作られたスイーツなのですね。
Welcome back to another episode of Anime Food in Real Life. Today I'll be recreating Momo's rose apple tarts from Shokugeki no Soma. Let's get started. The first thing we're making is this rose gel that I'm going to use to paint over the apples to scent it with the Damask Rose perfume, as well as make it taste like rose when you eat the apple tart as well. Bring 1 cup of water to a boil, then add in some pink food coloring. Then add in 1 cup of sugar and stir to combine until completely dissolved. We're not making a simple syrup today because I want to make sure the gel sticks to the apples, so we're going to be adding in a packet of gelatin. I'm using unflavored gelatin so I can flavor it with the rose water. This specific Damask Rose water I'm using is made specifically for baking and pastry. Add 1.5 tablespoons and set aside to cool. Now let's make the tart dough. I'm using my favorite tart dough recipe that I've shown on this channel before. You're going to need 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/3 cup of white granulated sugar, and 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into really small pieces. Then you're going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then using a stand mixer with the dough hook attachment, go ahead and mix this mixture until it resembles coarse cornmeal. Make sure you scrape down the sides as you go, and here's a close-up of what your texture should look like. For the wet ingredients, add in 2 tablespoons of cold water, 1 egg yolk, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Switch to your paddle attachment, then mix until fully combined. The tart dough should automatically form together and pull away from the bowl. Then collect all the dough pieces and form it into 1 large ball. If you poke it with your finger, the dough should hold its shape. Now grab a cutting board or a clean flat surface and some parchment paper and extra flour, and let's get started to shape the dough. On the flat surface, lay down a piece of parchment paper and dust with all-purpose flour. Also, rub your rolling pin with all-purpose flour to prevent the dough from sticking. Now carefully roll out your dough until it is 1/2 inch thick. Then use a 3-inch cookie cutter to cut out your tart shells. I'm using a fluted cookie cutter so it has nice scalloped edges. This dough recipe will give you 12 tart shells. You can re-roll the excess to make sure you have 12 tart shells total. Separate your cut out shells onto a new piece of parchment and set aside. Then grab a cupcake or muffin pan and let's get to buttering it. Butter each cup generously, then dust with all-purpose flour and shake out the excess. Now take each tart shell and mold it into the cupcake pan. Use your fingers to gently press it down into the pan, and once you have all of them in the pan, we're going to be docking it with a fork. Docking helps the shells stay in place while it's baking in the oven. Now we're going to bake in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. After baking, allow the shells to cool for 5 minutes before transferring onto a wire rack. Let these cool completely while you're working on your apples. Fill a large bowl with water and salt it until it tastes like the ocean. I'm using Fuji apples today because I think it pairs really well with the Damask Rose. Other apples that would go great with the rose scent would be Challah, Cosmic Crisp, Jazz, or even Pink Lady. I'll be using 4 medium-sized Fuji apples today for the tarts. To core the apples, cut the apples in half, then scoop out the center with a metal teaspoon or a metal spoon. Then, using a paring knife, cut off the stems. Now slice your apples as thin as you're comfortable with. I'm going about 1/4 of an inch thick, or you could go even thinner and do paper thin as well. Here's a close-up of how thin my apples are. Make sure you're adding in your sliced apples into your salt water to prevent oxidization. After slicing all the apples, arrange the slices in horizontal rows on a parchment-lined baking sheet, slightly overlapping each slice. I do my best to pair the apples by thickness so each row is going to cook evenly. Take a third cup of turbinado sugar and sprinkle it all over the apples. I previously froze 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now we're going to remove it from the freezer, break it into little pieces, and place them atop the apples. Bake the apples at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Once the apples have cooled to about room temperature, brush it with your Damask Rose Gel that we made earlier. Right now, everything smells so good, and I love how pretty the apples are turning. Let the gel dry for about 5 minutes, then start rolling your apples. Each row of apples is going to form about 2 roses. To make it easy on yourself, roll the apple slices really tight together. Then when you put them into the tart shells, you can fan it out just like pushing petals to open up a flower. This is the most time-consuming part of the entire recipe, so take your time with it and have fun. You can also mix and match the different rows of apples to create different size roses to give it some more character by making a bigger petal or using a smaller slice for a smaller petal. Then when you're happy with the size of your rose, place it into each tart shell. Once in the tart shell, spread out the petals using your fingers gently, and there you go, a beautiful apple rose. For a final touch, I like to brush the tops once more with the Damask Rose Gel we made. And now that you're done, get ready to stuff and smell the roses. So what do you think? Do you think my apple roses look like roses? I think they do. Wait till I take them outside and compare them to the roses in our backyard. Get ready now. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! These mini apple tarts are so gorgeous and they taste unbelievably delicious with the rose perfume. Do you guys think Momo would be proud? Please let me know what you think in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye!